First and foremost, welcome. This is our first kind of live collaboration with another group. So we're really excited to be here with MS Gym today for Mobility Awareness Month. One of the things that's been so exciting, and I'm Ann Ellis, for those of you who don't know me, I am the head of marketing for Psyonic, and we love doing these info sessions and listening sessions with the community. One of the things that's been so amazing about being at Psyonic is really the community that has formed around it. And one of the most active communities that has really formed kind of around the neural sleeve and taken on almost a life of its own is originally came from the MS Gym. And so today we'll have, from our team, we'll have Dr. Rebecca Webster. She runs our clinical team, but then we're delighted to have Trevor Wicken, who is a kind of neuro movement expert, has spent his career working with people with all different types of neurologic conditions, MS, certainly Parkinson's, spinal cord injuries, many other diagnoses. And then we have Galen. And so Galen is one of the Psyonic's earliest adopters. And she has been working with the MS Gym for a long time. And she actually started a customer-led Facebook group called Neural Sleep Information and Journeys. Perhaps some of you are part of it. But what's been really cool about that community in particular is how much connection there is kind of across the entire audience. But then also we've heard from so many people who both work with the MS Gym and use a neural sleeve, and how transformative kind of the combined experience has been for them. And so we're really excited to have Galen, who's going to join us today and share a little bit more about her experience. So before we jump in, we do have a Q&A open, so please submit questions to the Q&A. You should see it in the navigation bar. So submit your questions, and we will be looking at them and answering them throughout the session at different periods of time, or we'll respond with text directly in the Q&A. And so from here, I will do a brief overview of the neural sleeve. What is the technology? How does it work? And then from there, Trevor is going to share a little bit about the MS Gym. Galen's going to share her experience. And then Trevor, in recognition of Mobility Awareness Month, is going to do a few of his very favorite drills. So we're excited for all of that, and it should be a fun session. So first, I'll tell you a little bit about Psyonic. So our founder and CEO, Jeremiah Robison, is a career technologist who has really spent his entire career at the intersection of technology and the human body. And to the left, you can see a girl walking, and that is his wonderful daughter, Sophia. And Sophia has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy, and Jeremiah, as a career technologist who knows what sensing and machine learning is capable of, thought, how is it possible that there's been so little innovation in assistive technology when we live in a world with self-driving cars and reusable rockets and all of these innovations that even 10 years ago would have seemed almost impossible? And he knew that technology could do more, and left his job and went to create something that he knew could bring kind of the potential of technology to the people who need it to live more freely and independently. And so that is her today. She's wearing a neural sleeve. So it's the first bionic clothing. It sounds very sci-fi because in many ways it is. And so it's the first garment that's capable of sensing, analyzing, and augmenting human movements. It's been amazing. We are an FDA cleared medical device. We just started shipping neural sleeves to our earliest adopters, including Galen, just over a year ago. And the response has been amazing. We've also had some pretty awesome awards. Last year, we were named one of Time's Best Inventions, which was exciting, recognized as part of the World Changing Ideas from Fast Company. But really what's been the most amazing has been working with this incredible community of people and being with kind of our customers on their mobility journeys. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the technology for those of you who have questions. So first, it's a really comprehensive system. This is the first individual device that can target all 4 muscle groups of the leg at once. And so each of the 4 muscle groups has 6 sensors that we can actually steer current to. And so it's functional electrical stimulation, but it's applied directly to the muscle groups and customized to your individual needs and specifications every time you put on the neural sleeve. Then it's powered by algorithms. So we have real-time analysis and context awareness. So every step you take, the system is using complicated sensors and an array of sensors to understand not only how your leg is moving through space, but what your muscles are trying to do. So every step you take, it's analyzing and recalibrating, and then it delivers functional electrical stimulation to the muscle groups coordinated to the gait cycle. So every step you take, it's optimizing and program. It understands if you're sitting, if you're standing, if you're walking, if you speed up or if you slow down. The system, again, it knows that every step and it adjusts according to what you're doing. And then it's personalized care. So we use the Psyonic app. So it's a very intuitive app, and Galen can maybe talk about what it's like to use it. But we have an app that's for iOS and Android. We designed it to be very intuitive to use, and it has a range of different programs available for different walking styles. We have customers who may walk with a walker or may walk with a cane, or they use different devices or have different levels of ambulation. And so you work with our mobility specialist team to understand what your gait profile is and which program is the right for walking. And then we also have a library of exercises to help with strengthening and to help with functional movement as well. So that when you're not walking, you can still use the sleeve to do exercises and then also track your progress. We have comprehensive progress tracking that's available in the app. And then we're also just now rolling out monthly reports that will get sent to your email and show kind of the last month's activity. So you can share it with your doctor if you want to, or your physical therapist, whoever it is. And so that's the app. It's all app controlled. With your initial setup appointment, you get your settings put in place. And then you can make adjustments every day if you need it. So for example, what we hear from many of our customers who are living with multiple sclerosis is, hey, at the beginning of the day when my muscles are fresh, I feel like I can walk a little more, but over time throughout the day, I need a little more support. I want a little more stimulation. And so you can easily kind of increase the intensity of the system to give you the support you need at the time you need it. And then finally, we designed it to be really comfortable and breathable. We know that heat sensitivity in particular is a consideration. It was also designed to be worn underneath clothing if desired, or it looks good on its own as well. We've had quite a few customers say that they love wearing it with shorts, so they can share and talk about it with their friends. And then we have 2 different colors. And each sleeve, we have a range of sizes available. So you enter measurements during the process so we can send the sleeve size that's right for your leg. And then we tried to make it as intuitive as possible to put on and take off. There's about an 8-hour extension or an 8-hour life on the battery that you use. Many people kind of put it on in the morning and use it throughout the day as they need it. And so that can really assist you throughout the day. It's a very lightweight, breathable material. Again, maybe Galen can speak to that when she shares her experience, but we wanted it to be as lightweight and breathable as possible, knowing that 1, it might be underneath clothing, and 2, that heat sensitivity is often a consideration and a concern for our community. And then I'll just briefly touch on this high level. So we did a foot drop trial. So one of the primary conditions that people reach out to us about is foot drop specifically. And one of the ways that our system is unique is that foot drop is often thought of as just dorsiflexion or lifting the toe. But another big part of it can be the inversion or the tendency for the ankle to roll inward. And so because of how we designed our system, where we have kind of the full panel of stimulation, we're able to not only lift the toe, but also to dial in the settings so that we can also evert the foot. So turn the foot outward for a much more kind of stable walking pattern. And so this is from our first research study. And so everyone in this study experienced foot drop. 94% of the participants showed they were able to lift their foot more. And then 88% of people who experienced inversion were actually able to evert and again have that more stable pattern. And so that's, again, it just illustrates why our system is so unique in the sense that because we are covering kind of the full muscle group, we can really customize the individual muscle settings based on your individual needs. And so if you experience inversion, we can help to address that with the system. And so with that is all I wanted to share, just again, high level on, what is the neural sleeve? How does it work? Why is it unique? And now I'm excited to turn it over to Trevor to share a little bit about the MS Gem. Oh, Trevor, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mute before. I should know that by now. Yeah, so I just wanted to say welcome and hi to everybody. Hello to all my gymmers. I'm glad you guys are in the house, and thank you for talking to these guys, these lovely ladies at Psyonix to get us connected. It's been an awesome experience so far. I really, really enjoy the Psyonix company. I enjoy the teamwork aspect. I enjoy the adaptability aspect. And I also enjoy, as you just heard Anne speak about, how much they've thought about you as they've developed this, this assistive device. They thought about heat tolerance, they thought about patterning, they thought about ease of access, they thought about ease of use, they thought about even down to the aesthetics of it, that it looks cool and it feels okay, and like people are happy to share it. Like these are all important things because, you know, assistive devices are great if you use them and if they're comfortable and if it's not a pain to use them throughout your life. And I think Psyonix done an amazing job of putting something together that is adaptable to the person, which is what we all need, right? So I just want to tell you a little bit about the MS Gym. I'll get in a little bit more about the actual sleeve when we get to the exercise piece and my thoughts on why I've teamed up with Psyonix, and really am super excited about what's going on. But just briefly about the MS Gym, we are the largest platform for movement, mindset, and education on the web. We have thousands of testimonials, we have thousands of members, and the reason why we've grown, I mean, you can see we have structured exercise programs, we have expert coaching, we have symptom-specific drills, but honestly, like the heart and soul of our business is our community, right? The community has grown the MS Gym so much because they are so supportive, they are so encouraging, they want to be educated, they're empowered by knowledge, and then they really welcome people into their community, and they will stand beside you on your hard days, they will stand beside you on your victory days. Like we rise together and we fall together as the MS Gym, and it's become a really powerful community. The structured exercise programs that we do, I want to make it very easy for you guys. So just like Psyonix done, we want to make it very easy for you to use, where you literally log into your private, your private exercise portal, you go to your program, that we will tell you, like we will actually have videos that guide you towards the right program. You log in, you go to your program, and boom, you are in the day that you're supposed to be on. You're in the workout session that you're supposed to be on. When you go through these programs, you have me, right? I've been doing this for over 20 years. My life is neuro, right? I am a neuro nerd. That's all I do, right? I've trained a variety of people, variety of athletes, but my passion is for the neurodegenerative condition, the neurodisruptive communities, because exercise is movement. Movement is medicine. Like when you actually get your body to the point where it can start moving again, amazing things happen, which you're going to hear about from Galen in just a sec. So those structured exercise programs are very easy to follow. I take you through them step by step. I am coaching you all along the way. And literally it's as easy as showing up, pressing play, and then just following along, listening to me, doing the exercises to your best of your ability and focus, and then having some fun, right? So that's what we're about in the MS Gym, and I'm super excited to be here with everybody. I will be back in a little bit to go through all of the exercises, and then we'll do, I'll be available for some questions and answers and stuff like that at the end. So I know Gay Lynn is on a little bit of a time crunch here, so I want to give the floor back to her, one of my gymmers. Gay Lynn, thank you for everything that you've done for Psyonix, for the MS Gym, for the neurodisruptive community of connecting people and building a community that is just like the MOC, just like our members corner, which is encouraging, informed, educated, empowering, and just super loving and caring to each other. So let's hear from you. You're on mute.
Galen, do you mind unmuting?
There you go.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Trevor, and everyone from Psyonix for allowing me to be here today. The journey has been going on for me for quite a while. I was diagnosed with MS in 1996 with optic neuritis, and I was pretty stable for years, but they put me on a medication. And one thing I've learned over the years is there's more to healing yourself than just using medication. And in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was like everybody else, was working from home, and I reached out to a friend of mine who did athletic rehabilitation. I said, can you recommend anything to me, because I'm having a problem with my legs. Now, I already knew I had foot drop, and I was in a AFO, which I absolutely hated. So he gave me the information for the MS Gym YouTube videos. And I watched a few of them and I liked what I saw. So I decided to take the plunge, and I've been there ever since. One of the things I can say about the MS Gym is they're, like Trevor said, they're the most supportive group I've ever seen. And if you have a question, you ask it, you won't have one answer, you'll have several answers from people that have been there, have done this, and have been able to improve their lives. So you can get off of wheelchairs and start using walkers, people who can get off of walkers who start walking. And I'm thinking, like, this would be great if there was something else. And I heard through the grapevine about this new device called the Psionic Neural Sleeve. And I did a little bit of research and I thought, wow, this is pretty interesting. It's innovative. I've never seen anything. So I started a conversation on the MS Gym's members only corner. And honestly, it completely blew up the responses. I had more people asking questions about it and I didn't have the answers. And then somebody from the MS Gym, one of the moderators, said, why don't you start a separate page so we can direct those questions to that page and keep the MS Gym members only corner open up for the exercises themselves. So I took the advice. Honestly, I thought I'd get maybe 20 people. I'm now over 1,100 people. I can't see what the exact number is. So I'm really happy about that. It grew very fast. But what it enabled us to do is we're the people that are using the sleeve. We're the people that are in the MS Gym or in another MS physical therapy program. And we're pulling all of our knowledge together, asking the questions, getting the answers. And if we don't know the answers, we know who to go to. We can go directly to Psionic. There's members from Psionic that are on the staff who are also on the Psionic Neural Sleeve site. And they're able, or onto the Neural Sleeve site, and they're able to give an answer directly from Psionic instead of going through a third party for the answer. Same thing. I know Trevor's on the Neural Sleeve site, and I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I'm not on it every day because of my work schedule, but I'm sure people have reached out to Trevor as well, whether it's on my site or if it's on the MS Gym site. But the results that we're seeing are phenomenal. We've had a couple of people post videos where they were walking on a seashore, on a beach that they haven't been able to walk on for years, and they have the Neural Sleeve. Now, the only problem with that, you don't want to get sand on the electrodes because you don't want to damage anything. But people are starting to live their life again. And even if it's for an hour or 2 hours a day, it's more than what a lot of people have been doing. In my own situation, I started out, I was doing 300 to 400 steps a day. And a lot of that's because my job is a stationary job, which when you're sitting all day long, you're not stretching anything and everything's starting to deteriorate. Between the gym and the Psionic Neural Sleeve, last month I was up to 4,000 steps a day. So to me, that's fantastic. I still have days where I might not feel the best. Like honestly, I had a fall about 2 weeks ago. And the worst part is my husband just came out of surgery, so there was no way he could pick me up. But thank you to Trevor, he had just did a webinar on actually how to get up from falling. And so I put everything together and I was able to get myself off the floor and standing back up in less than 5 minutes. And so before, it was like half an hour, 45 minutes, I was struggling to get off the floor. And that's not the way to live a life. So even though, a person may not see tremendous results right away, it's definitely worth it to try everything you can. And so right now, I'm no longer on medication. I went off the medication because it was making me feel 10 times worse than the disease itself. And I just want to reassure everybody that when you first get the Neural Sleeve, there's an adjustment period that you need to be aware of. It's not going to, for some people, they put it on and they're walking right out the door and it's fantastic. Other people, they struggle with it. For myself, there were adjustments that had to be made to it. I had swelling in the leg and I thought at first it was from the Neural Sleeve and the electrodes, and it wasn't. It was just from not using the leg and the muscles. And So I just started working on that a little bit more, doing a little bit more exercises with my leg, making sure not to have spasticity in the leg, using an exercise bike. So there's little things that you can do to help yourself, but it's not going to be completely out of the box the first day you wear it. And that's one of the things that we try to reassure everybody on the NeuroSleeve. Give it some time. It took you how many years for your muscles and your nerves and everything to fall apart? It's going to take time to build them all back together. And that's what is so special about Trevor's program at the MS Gym, is the neuroplasticity trains you to take a different route for your nerves and everything, to take a different route. Kind of like, if I can kind of say what Trevor says in his programs, is picture going down a highway and you have a big pothole, or you have a structure in the middle of the road and you have to go around it. You find a detour, you find a side road. Well, that's what we're doing with our nerves. And, it helps tremendously, but it's a constant doing the exercises, repeating it until your brain realizes, hey, we can do this. We can get up, we can walk around, we can do things. I'm now back to helping my husband, making the meals at home, cleaning the house. I mean, I get tired still, but at least I can get up, walk around, do everything I need to do. And my plan, or my goal, is to get back driving again. I know I can't drive while I have the sleeve on, but my goal is to start driving again. You had talked about the NeuroSleeve helping foot drop. Yes, it does. I mean, I've never seen my foot go up and down, so it's actually pretty good. I have extra issues with the hip flexor, and the knee hyperextension, which does make it a little bit difficult. I'm not saying that the NeuroSleeve is not going to help that all, but with the exercises, it does start to strengthen the muscles in the back of the calf and the back of the hamstring. And same thing with Trevor's program. He has tremendous amount of exercises there to help that. And you go at your own pace, which is the nice part. And you don't push it. You don't try to run out the door and get to the very last program as soon as you go in. Sometimes I've already had to circle all the way back to the beginning of the program twice, just because my brain didn't accept all the movements and stuff I was doing. And it's funny, after you do that a few times, you can do the movements. I mean, it does help. And, I try to stress to people, reach out for everything. These two groups, the Psionic group and the MS Gym group, is a marriage made in heaven. Between the two of them working together, there's nothing that you can't do. You just have to put your mind to it and take one step at a time. And the old motto at the MS Gym, if you can take one step, you can take 3 steps. If you can take 3 steps, you can take 30 steps. And you just keep building it up. There's people in our MS Gym that are in the NeuroSleeve group that have been walking a mile. They're going on trips to Europe. One of our girls, she's out playing golf today. She's 80 years old. And like, to me, this is fantastic. I mean, I hope I'm that good when I'm 80 years old. And, you still get down some days when you have a bad day, or if you have a relapse. But the thing is to never give up on. Just keep pushing forward. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, you have 2 groups to go to now. You have 3 groups to go to. You can go to the MS Gym. You can just say, hey, look, I'm having a bad day. Can somebody help me? And believe me, there's so many people on that site that they are probably the best group I've been with. In fact, I'm on the MS Gym site and the MOC site more than I'm on my regular Facebook page. Even the NeuroSleeve group, we come up with innovative ways. Some people were saying, well, the sleeve falls down on my leg. What do I do? Well, gentleman got on, he says, well, here's what I do. And it works for me. I had a problem with the controller kept slipping out of my hands because my hands don't always have the best grip. So believe it or not, I talked to my veterinarian, and I got a veterinarian tape, and I put some tape around it, and it doesn't hurt the controller, but it allows me to grip the controller. So when I put it in my pocket on my sleeve, I don't drop it. So it actually works out really well. You just have to think outside the box, and that's the best thing you can do. And in that, I will turn it back over.
Thanks, Galen. Can I have you ask one more question, which was it Was it challenging to get onboarded? Like, can you just describe what it was like for you? I think you described kind of some of the changes you've seen to your mobility, and thank you for sharing your experience, which I think is so incredibly powerful. And we feel so fortunate that we met you so early, kind of in our journey as a company. But if you could share kind of what was the onboarding process like for you, and in terms of getting acclimated to the technology itself and using the app and working with your mobility specialists, things like that.
Okay, well, one of the
Sorry, that was a lot of questions.
yeah, the biggest challenge for me is actually working a full-time job and trying to do everything. So that's the biggest challenge for me. But the onboarding took maybe half an hour, if that. I was never one for technology, and I'm learning to embrace it now. Pretty much you set everything up with your specialist with the date and the time, and then you through the use of your cell phone, they can watch you and you can talk to them, and they'll help you set up each setting to lock it in place, and then get the proper lift, proper stimulation, and they'll show you how to, they'll have you get up and walk with it. And it's the wow moment when you can actually get up from a chair and take a step. I mean, that's pretty powerful. Now, there are people that have to go to onboarding several times, just because, like me, I made the mistake. I didn't realize that once I set it up for the onboarding on the settings, they left the settings there, that you had them locked in. And I would go in, I would change them every day, and I messed everything up. And then I struggled. And again, it's a learning process. You learn, okay, you don't do that. So we do have a lot of people asking about the onboarding, but it's a very simple process. If you have somebody there that can help you hold the phone, that's great. If not, you can just lean the phone up against the leg of your chair, and they can see the movement of your leg, and they can tell you basically what settings you have to bring your foot in, to bring your foot out. So it's actually amazing to me. It's phenomenal of what they're doing.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Sure.
And then can you describe, what does it feel like to wear, and how do you wear it? Do you wear it, can you always see it? Do you wear it under clothing? Do you mind just sharing kind of how you wear it?
Sure. Well, right now, because the weather's getting warmer, I just wear it under shorts, which is fine. In the wintertime, I can actually wear it under jeans. I can wear it under leggings. It's a very soft material. It's not uncomfortable at all. As far as the stimulation, that takes a little bit to get used to, but what I found with it is the stimulation also helps to decrease the spasticity in my legs. So that was an unexpected result. I wasn't expecting that. So you do have to get used to it. Some people, it depends on what your tolerance is going to be for stimulation, but pretty much it's just like a little vibration, a heavier vibration than normal. It's kind of hard to explain to somebody else, but it's not an uncomfortable feeling. The only uncomfortable thing is if you do what I did and accidentally hit it button when you're out to lunch with someone and it really gave you a zap. That was one thing I didn't like. I mean, but that's why I have everything figured in. I just make sure that I don't have the application open on my phone where I could accidentally hit it. I close it so it runs in the background on my phone. And that's the nice part, because if it runs in the background on your phone, you don't have to worry about it. When I'm sitting at my desk for work, I just pause it. Then if I have to get up and walk around, I can turn it back on and I'm fine. I made the mistake of trying to push it past 8 hours in the very beginning and tired my leg out. You do have to go into it gradually. You can't start out right at 8 hours. You have to start out, maybe an hour the first day or two, and then just build it up until you get to that 8 hours, so you don't tire out your nerves and your muscles. And then at that point, you have to take a break for a day or a couple days until your muscles and stuff relax.
Great. Thanks, Galen. There are a few specific kind of technical questions that I'm going to have Becky join us to answer briefly before we then jump into the drills with Trevor here in just a moment. So there have been quite a few questions around around hip flexion specifically, and then knee hyperextension. Becky, do you mind speaking to those?
Sure, no problem. And then I also saw a question in the chat about adductors, psoas, and glutes. So I'll just kind of tie those in as well. So the sleeve doesn't go up into the hip flexors or the glutes, or the iliopsoas, the hip flexor. The hip flexors in particular are pretty deep muscles, and so kind of hard to get that stimulation there. So even though the sleeve doesn't directly target the muscles that flex the hip, we do have customers who do report improvements to hip flexion, secondarily to the use of the sleeve, whether it's that the foot drop is corrected and it just allows for more room to swing the leg through, or more energy can be put to the hip flexors. So similarly, the glutes, we don't target the glutes, but people do report improvements to posture, which can help with glute strengthening, perhaps. The adductors are an interesting one. We don't target the adductors. We do have some individuals who rotate the sleeve a little bit to see if they can pick up some of those muscles. In terms of knee hyperextension, it sort of depends on what is causing the knee hyperextension. And knee hyperextension could be from weak quads or spasticity in the calf. Our algorithms do not directly target knee hyperextension in the mid stance. But again, we do have people report improvements, whether it's their quad has strengthened and they have more quad control that helps to stabilize the knee, or we do have individuals who report improvements to spasticity. So if there's spasticity that's kind of leading to that knee hyperextension, that may also result, if there's a decrease in spasticity, or result in decreased knee hyperextension.
Thanks, Becky. Do you mind also speaking? A few people have asked about balance. So maybe you could respond from your side, and then Galen, maybe you could speak to your experience as well.
Yeah, so balance is sort of similar. So functional electrical stimulation traditionally is used to contract the muscles, weak muscles, to help sort of fill in the gaps where those weaknesses occur. Particularly with our customers with MS who may have ataxia or balance and coordination challenges. Sometimes we set up the stimulation more at not always the motor level or the muscle contraction level, but just below that, where it's a sensory component, and it acts as a sensory cue to your own muscles as in terms of when to contract and relax. And sometimes when we have 4 muscles on or 3 muscles on, or upper and lower leg, that the sensation of the stimulation really helps to coordinate the pattern. And some people report improvements to balance and coordination and motor control.
Yes, also on the balance, again, using both the Neural Sleeve and the MS Gym, there are a tremendous amount of balance programs in the MS Gym, which pretty much, and I never realized how important it was with your visual acuity. And if you can get your vision corrected, that's going to help tremendous. And then the Neural Sleeve also picks up on that. It picks up on the leg, and it helps if you're, how do I put this? If your upper body is in sync with your eyes, and you can look around as you're walking. I mean, it is different because before the Neural Sleeve, before the gym, I constantly had to look down to see where I was stepping, and that's not a good thing. You miss out a lot. You miss out a lot on life if you just keep looking at your feet all the time. So that's all I have on the balance part.
Thanks, Galen. Becky, there have been a few more questions about, one is the Neural Sleeve, therapeutic? Like, do people experience carryover effect? And then a similar kind of related question is, can you speak to how the sleeve kind of could help with muscle growth, disuse, preventing disuse, atrophy, et cetera?
So, yeah, carryover effects can be from, so carryover effects meaning that you utilize the electrical stimulation, the neural sleeve, and that you see changes or improvements to your walking when you don't have the sleeve on. And so that's what we would consider a carryover effect, that some of the improvements that you experience wearing the sleeve are carried over to when you're not wearing the sleeve. And so those carryover effects could be a result of increased strength that is occurring, increased balance, increased range of motion. We don't have evidence about neuroplasticity, but whenever there is a learning, or as Galen and Trevor spoke to before, about kind of rerouting that pathway, kind of finding a new pathway for that connection. If there is change, that is neuroplasticity is happening. And so carryover effects could be a result of many components. And so some individuals experience sort of more permanent carryover effects, which I would probably more attribute to strength gains or neuroplasticity. And then some people report sort of more temporary, like then the couple hours after taking the sleeve off, they are moving a little bit more naturally. In terms of muscle strength and atrophy prevention, so functional electrical stimulation has been used for a long time for strengthening and prevention of atrophy. So this can occur through exercise. Exercise is great, and I think particularly like the MS Gym was very targeted for for individuals with neurological conditions. It's very focused on specific muscle groups that are, that can be impacted. So adding electrical stimulation to exercise can also improve strength, as well as just if you're walking more using the sleeve. It's could be a potentially functional strength gains where you're gaining muscle through activity. So whether it's a sit to stand or walking or stair climbing or anything like that.
Great, thanks, Becky.
Yeah.
There was a question around, are there different modes in terms of programs? So yes, we do have, in addition to walking programs, I'll add a spot so you can see me. In addition to walking programs, we do also have like a cycle protocol that's for stationary bikes. We don't yet have a golf mode. I saw that question. So hopefully someday, although as Galen shared, someone in the community we do have customers who will wear their neural sleeve golfing in particular to help just navigating the course because there's so much walking involved in that sport specifically. And then maybe I'll ask one more question for, this will be for both Becky and Trevor. Which is, are there different mobility levels where you would recommend that someone become a customer? So maybe Becky, you could speak to kind of how it works. And this person's particular question was, they're able to walk small amounts using a walker. And so does it make sense is that a good starting point for the neural sleeve? So maybe answer that. And then Trevor, if you could speak to kind of different mobility levels and how you work with people on an individual basis. Let me bring you up here as well. All right, so Becky, do you want to start? And then we'll go over to Trevor. And then Trevor, maybe we'll transition into your drills in just a few moments.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Absolutely. So the neural sleeve, there are exercise programs that you can use stimulation, and then the gait programs are the main program probably for the neural sleeve. And so, yes, if you're walking, you can absolutely use the neural sleeve. If you're not walking, you can also start in the exercise mode. However, that being said, if you're looking between, starting an exercise program and the neural sleeve, I would probably recommend that you start with the MS Gym, or you start with an exercise program and you start to build up that strength so that when you are ready to, and I know you're walking, so I don't want to discourage you by any means. You can absolutely use the neural sleeve, but I think there is a component about really putting yourself in the best sort of space to be able to utilize the stimulation in the neural sleeve for walking. So I'm sort of a proponent of let's really work on those exercises. Let's get some strength, and that will potentially make the transition to using electrical stimulation for walking using the neural sleeve a little bit easier. That being said, though, there's no reason that you couldn't start now, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with Rebecca. I could go like 3 hours on everything everyone just said. I'm like, ooh. So I'll just go directly to this, and then I'll kind of touch on some things that everybody has talked about as we go through the drill. So I agree with Rebecca that like the psionic sleeve really it plays well when there is ambulatory movement, when people are actually walking, when they're lifting their legs, when there's a pattern in the brain that is saying dorsiflex the foot, flex the knee, flex the hip, keep your balance. And then on the other side, like, you know, hip extension, quad extension, and then also like lockdown on the lower leg, kind of extension, flexion, balance, right? So if you are someone who struggles with walking, I would definitely start moving. And then if you have a sleeve, when you are up on your walker, just try it, but try it on a very low level and try to really focus on breaking down your walking pattern into individual repetitions. Every single step is a repetition. So you're not just going to be able to get up and just put the sleeve on if you don't walk very well and you're heavily dependent on a walker or a rollator or wheelie. We call it a wheelie walker, right? If you're heavily dependent on that, you're not going to be able to put on an assistive device, and then that assistive device is just going to take over. And this is where I was going to begin as my segue, is that this is an assistive device. Like, your brain and your body are created to move. This assistive device is an amazing piece of technology that actually helps put guardrails around what your brain's wanting to do, kind of like on a bowling lane. When you take little kids and you put the bumpers in there, the ball may be doing this, but it's still keeping the lane straight. So you're eventually going to get to those pins. That's what the sleeve does in a simplistic way, right? So as you start using those muscles, it's going to kind of guide you, and it's going to activate things in a certain sequence that's going to allow your brain to be able to find those muscles, allow those muscles to be able to communicate back with your brain. And then there's this integration process of your body being able to use that pattern and start learning how to use multiple muscle groups at multiple times and multiple parts of your nervous system at the same time so that you can walk again. But if you are someone who is going to be like, oh, this is the best thing ever, I'm just going to put this sleeve on and do nothing else and I'm good, it's not going to work. And you're going to be heavily disappointed, and you're going to write into these guys and be like, this doesn't work. Well, actually, it does work. It's just that like Galen said, it takes a while for your brain to learn. You may have had MS for 25 years. It's going to take a long dang time to relearn how to use all those frontage roads and those side roads instead of using the main highway that is completely disrupted by whatever medical condition you have. So there is a learning curve. There is time to actually get your body to learn this process. But if you can get that electrical stimulus on those certain muscles and then do corrective exercise, isolated exercise to reestablish the individual muscles' activity and function, and then use your walking practice and that sleeve to actually assist it and facilitate them working together, that's a beautiful synergy. Right? So you can, like, we do this in the MS gym all the time. Like, we have programs all the way from people that are bed bound all the way up to people that are high mobility. Like, I have late stage neurologic Lyme disease, right? So like, I was one of years ago because my feet didn't work. 4 different relapses, they took me out. My hands didn't work. 4 different relapses took me out. Like, I have foot drop a little bit still on my left side. And when I put this sleeve on, when I was working with Shannon and Rebecca, like, I could actually feel just that little electrical stimulus hitting my anterior tibialis or my hip flexor. And because the rectus femoris, where that goes, that hip flexor, even with electrical stimulus on it, even though you're extending your leg, which means making it straight, you're still getting that rectus femoris kicking in, which is a hip flexor in partnership with the psoas and the iliacus. So hip flexion will improve. And I experienced it. I was like, after I had the sleeve on, I was like, whoa, like my leg just like popped up. Once I took it off and I started walking again, I'm like, this is awesome. Because my left leg is the one that got most affected by all my neurologic stuff. So the best thing to do is start small, work on individually trying to activate those muscles, maybe use that sensory setting like Rebecca was talking about to give your brain connection into that muscle while you're training them in a corrective, isolated format. And then do that for, 3, 4, or 5 weeks, and then start maybe using the sleeve in a very controlled, very short duration. Because as Galen said, it can tire out your muscles, like literally 5-minute sessions where you're just on your walker, taking one step and stopping, taking another step and stopping, taking another step and stopping and trying to connect your brain to those muscles and let the muscles connect to the sleeve and let that sleeve guide the response back to your brain. And it creates this very cool, like partnership between the technology and also the technology inside your brain, which is your central nervous system. I hope that was a nice roundup.
Yes, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was great. And there have been a lot of questions. Maybe Trevor, if you don't mind, before we jump into the drills, maybe we've had a lot of questions on how do I actually order this? What's the process? Do you mind if I take that just really quickly and then we're going to hand it over to you? Okay.
Yeah, you're all good.
Perfect. All right. So Becky, 1 second. All right. And I'll put myself back on Spotlight. All right. One moment here. Okay, so people have asked, what is the ordering and onboarding process? So with Psyonic, everything is virtual. There have been questions around, can we demo it in person? We don't have a lot of trial opportunities just because we're a small team and we're a distributed team. We are growing our centers of excellence. So those are clinical partners who specialize in neuro rehab across the country. And so there will be additional opportunities to book appointments at those facilities. For example, Shirley Ryan Ability Lab in Chicago was our very first one, and there will be a demo day in June. And so we will be continuing to increase those opportunities. If you're in the Denver area, we have 3 new centers of excellence, and we'll have quite a few more that we'll be announcing soon. That said, it is a virtual process from start to finish. So if you are interested in a neural sleeve, you go to our website and there's a really quick 6-question assessment, very basic questions. Do you live in the United States? There have been a few questions about that. So yes, we are currently only indicated to sell neural sleeves in the United States. We know that there's a lot of international interest, in particular from Canada and the UK, but really around the world. We are working toward expanding availability and exploring different ways to do that. And we'll continue to announce expansion via our newsletter. But we hear you. But yes, right now it does require a residence in the United States as well as a prescription from a physician here in the US. And that's just in accordance with our FDA clearance. So it's your age, where you live, diagnosis and mobility, as well as just some contraindications. Then you land on an ordering page. So similar to how you would order anything online, you pick out what color you want, you select the side that you want. We have had some people in the chat ask, can people wear sleeves on both legs? Yes, absolutely. Often we just picture it on one, but we have many customers who wear neural sleeves on both legs. What we typically recommend is that you start with one on your more impacted leg, make sure the system's working for you, and then we'll add that second sleeve. But we'll work with you on what's right for your mobility. Then you complete your orders, you make a down payment on the website, and we send instructions for getting a prescription that can come from any primary care physician or neurologist. So it doesn't have to be your neurologist. We know some people may only see their neurologist, once a year. So it can be a primary care physician who is familiar with your mobility, a nurse practitioner, et cetera. And then you record a walking video, and that's for our mobility specialists to assess your gait before your setup appointment. So they already come to that meeting with an idea of what program is probably right for your mobility. And then once that's in place, the neural sleeve ships between 4 and 10 weeks. We go as fast as we can. Each SKU is a little bit different, and it depends on inventory. So we say 4 to 10 weeks and aim to get it to you as quickly as possible. And then once your sleeve gets to your house, you try it on, make sure it fits. If it does, you apply electrodes, you book your setup appointment, and then you actually meet face-to-face with your mobility specialist through the telehealth app. And so just kind of pricing and details. So it's a $260 down payment, $260 a month for the first year. And that's kind of our all-inclusive plan. So that includes the neural sleeve, that includes all of your replacement electrodes, that includes your ongoing care with your dedicated mobility specialist. So you get a mobility specialist assigned and you meet with them face-to-face on an ongoing basis to do check-ins, reassess the gait programs that you're using and see if there are other things that are would be good for you. That also involves all of the new programs and exercises that we roll out. So that was one question we got in the chat, which is, if you do a new software release, does that go out to everyone? And the answer is yes. The beauty of the neural sleeve is it's built by using software. And so similar to your iPhone, which improves, hopefully every time Apple does a software release, you get your new features, you get that software update. Yes, that comes with it. And so even if you got your system before the release comes out, you're still benefiting from that evolving user experience. And that's really what we believe in, is how do we make the platform as beneficial for our community as possible. And so typically what happens is when we roll out new features, they're inspired by community feedback. And so this last release that we did just 2 weeks ago was, we got a lot of questions around like, hey, like activities of daily living, I want to do sit to stands, and I want to build strength to climb stairs. And so we worked on functional exercise programs. So we're always rolling out new features based on community feedback. And then what I also want to say, so one, there's a referral code that you see there, ZCHH, that's special for this group. And so if you do want to enter that, if you're interested in ordering a neural sleeve and you want to enter it during checkout, you'll get $50 off of your down payment. And then the other thing that's unique about Psyonic, and then I'll stop here and hand it over to Trevor, is one of the things that is also unique about Psyonic came from our founder again. They invested in a device for his daughter's mobility. And it was really expensive. They had to pay out of pocket. And when they got it home, after they had only tried it in a clinic for a few minutes, and they got home, and after they were trying to work with her and use it, they realized that it actually wasn't a fit for her mobility. But at that point, they had already paid for the whole thing, and there was nothing they could do about it. And so that was really frustrating. And I think we feel like mobility is the most critically important thing. Trevor said it earlier, which is spot on, and it's 100% what we believe, which is movement is medicine. And so if the neural sleeve works for you, great. We will do everything we can to work with you and work with your PT or work with whoever's in your care team to make the experience as beneficial as possible. But we understand neurologic conditions are really complicated, and it may not be a fit for your mobility. And if it isn't, cancel, send it back. Remaining payments are canceled. So it's pay as you go, cancel anytime, no questions asked. It is covered by FSA and HSA plans. It's not widely reimbursed. We've had some questions about the VA. So we are a registered vendor with the VA. If you are if you're getting care right now from the VA and are interested in a neural sleeve, contact va@psyonic.com. And we have a team there that's helping veterans navigate the VA. Some private insurance plans have also offered coverage, and then we're working toward broader reimbursement and have a team that can provide. If you talk to your insurance provider and they say that there might be coverage available, we'll provide the documents that you need to make that happen. And so with that, I will turn it over to Trevor. Again, this is the code, so ZCHH, special for today. And with that, let's go over to Trevor.
All right. Thank you, Anne. So yeah, you guys, as you can see, like these guys are doing everything possible to like make this experience good for you, to make it pretty seamless for you and all that. And let me just reiterate, let me start off by saying, I'm a movement guy. I believe in the power of movement. I believe that your body was created to move. I believe that there is healing capacity that is in all of us, right? And my job as a coach and a teacher and a scientist and a neuro nerd, like I said, is to give you and guide you and deliver programs for you that are going to facilitate your body reconnecting with itself and finding its way back. All right. I just want to start off this entire last part saying, you're never too far gone. All right. You're never too far gone. There is always something that you can do. It may take a long time. It may take very tiny infant baby steps to get to the point where you can even use this Psyonic sleeve, like Rebecca said, but with a team like this, we can get you there. All right. And that's my job on this planet. So I like assistive devices. And the reason why I chose Psyonic, I don't really partner with many people, but the reason why I like Psyonic is because I feel like the technology it partners and it adapts and it listens to you, so to speak, right? It's not completely AI or anything like that, but these movement specialists and the feedback that they get on this app and through this technology give them real-time feedback to adjust the technology to you, all right? Just like with what I do when I set up programs, I spend hours in this studio here and put papers all on this wall for every program that I write, every series that I write, every workshop that I write, to make sure that I've met the needs of the group that I'm talking to, and that we create a progressive model so that your brain learns in a way that it can actually feel comfortable and confident and not threatening. So like Anne was just saying, you may put on the neuro sleeve and your mobility level, it may freak out your brain. It doesn't mean that the technology doesn't work for you or won't work for you in the future. It just means that right now, your brain may not be able to handle the certain stimulus that it's getting. So what may be occurring is that you may need to actually like educate and train your brain to reconnect with the movement systems and with the parts of your brain responsible for movement, for the motor actions, for the sensory actions, and for the integration pieces in order to allow that sleeve to start working correctly. Okay, so that's what I like about this. It's very adaptable. It can move with you. It can grow with you as you get better moving in programs that you're with, your therapist or your trainer or the MS Gym. You will notice that you will be able to use the sleeve even better. So this is a very complementary system that we're working on. Okay, so what I want to go over today are 5 different exercises that are going to target the muscles that the Psyonix sleeve target. Now, some of these may overlap into what you see in the Psyonix app, but this is a tiny, tiny sliver of what we provide in the MS Gym. And I have the opportunity right now to really go over how to maximize your results out of these movement drills. Like you can pull up a video and try to figure out an exercise all day long, but unless you have someone guiding you through of what you should focus on, how fast you should move, how you should breathe, what the setup is, what muscle you're using, you're actually selling yourself short, right? So I was super honored that they asked me to come on here, explain some of these exercises, how to use them properly, how they'll actually help you enhance your usage of the Psyonix sleeve. And then I'm going to give you, like Galen said, there's a strong connection between your vestibular system and your visual system with your balance system. And if we were going to get you up on your feet and walking, your vestibular system and visual system better be turned on. Otherwise, your brain may see that as a threatening experience and cause you to have symptoms that don't need to be there. All right. So we're going to give you a vestibular drill at the end, showing you how to use that in conjunction with your Psyonix sleeve and walking patterns so that you can actually thrive. All right. So go ahead. What we're going to do is we're going to go into a slide on an exercise. I'm going to briefly explain it. Then I'm going to flip my camera down and I'm going to demonstrate it. Okay. So Ann, perfect. There you go. So drill 1. Okay. We're talking about assisted dorsiflexion. All right. So dorsiflexion is your body's ability to lift your foot. So if you look at the the photo on the right, you can see my foot is lifting off the ground. Dorsiflexion is super important for walking. It's also important for doing things like sit to stand. If your ankle doesn't move well, you will not be able to sit down and stand up well. You will not be able to go up and down stairs well. You will not be able to get on and off the floor well. So dorsiflexion is very, very important. The muscles that we're working in dorsiflexion are your anterior tibialis, one of the muscles that the electrodes go on with the sleeve. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use a resistance band as a spotter. So when you have your sleeve on, if you're doing this with your sleeve, you can put it on the motor function, or maybe you just need to put it on the sensory function. And what we're going to focus on here, I think, can you see my cursor when I do this? Or no? No? Okay. So what we're going to be working, yes or no?
No.
So what we're going to be working here is the muscle on the front of the shin called your anterior tibialis. So as we do this, okay, I want you to really think about, and you might want to switch me to spotlight now. You really want to think about this muscle right here. This is your anterior tibialis, okay? This is the muscle that gets super duper weak when your foot is either thrown into foot drop through spasticity, or the muscles are weak in your anterior tibialis, leading to weakness or muscle weakness, and that foot just falls, okay? So foot drop can be caused by either one of those. Now, if you have spasticity, just real quick, I don't have this on a slide, but if you have hands, which all of us typically do, right? Or a lacrosse ball or something like this, like a rolling pin, if you have spasticity and you know you have spasticity in this lower leg, you can take something like a rolling pin, and this doesn't have to be expensive. You can get like $1 rolling pin at a dollar store. And I just want you to slowly move up and down that calf before you put your sleeve on, okay? Because that'll rub on those electrodes, and that's not going to be good. So before you put your sleeve on, if you have areas of spasticity in your quad or in your calf that maybe throw you into extensor spasticity or throw you into foot drop, then you can get in and you can use this myofascial tool to roll out those areas that are tender when you roll over tibialis and soleus, or up here in your quadricep, right? So the muscle I was talking about right here is your rectus femoris. It is a hip flexor. okay? So you want to get spasticity out of this hip flexor, because if you have spasticity in that quad, in that rec fem, that will lead to knee hyperextension. That will lead to circumduction gait. That will lead to an inability for you to actually flex your hip to step up a stair or to actually get on and off your chair fluidly, okay? So number one, you want to go 30 minutes to 60 seconds trying to find, or 30 seconds to 60 seconds, finding those tender spots in those muscles to release that spasticity, okay? So that's kind of a free, you put the sleeve on. So then you want to put your sleeve on if you're using it, and then we can start getting into the drills, okay? So on an assisted dorsiflexion, what you're going to do here is find a resistance band, and you're going to put that around your foot, okay? Or underneath, just slip it underneath there. So it's under the center of my foot like that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pull up on this band and gather it so that there's tension in the band. Now, this elastic energy is going to help you lift your foot up, but I don't want you to just allow that foot to just zing up like this. I want you to really try to think about using this muscle, creating movement in this ankle joint to activate this anterior tibialis, okay? So you're going to pull up on that band, lock it on your leg, and then you're slowly just going to pull up. You're going to hold it for a count of 2, sitting up nice and tall, 1, 2. Then I actually want you to push that foot down into the floor. That will activate your plantar flexors, okay? But it will also teach your dorsiflexors how to relax and how to lengthen. When we can contract a muscle and we can lengthen a muscle voluntarily with good motor control, that reduces spasticity a ton, okay? So you're gonna hold this band, lock it in, go ahead and take a breath, and you're gonna exhale, bring that foot up, hold it for 2 seconds, trying to squeeze this muscle into a contraction, and then you're gonna push that back down, and you're gonna push into the floor for 2 seconds. 1, 2, okay? Then bring it up again, 1, 2, 3, hold it for 2 seconds, 1, 2, push down, and push into the floor for 2 seconds. 1, 2. Okay, we'll do a couple more of those. Bring it up, 1, 2, 3, hold 2, squeeze that muscle, push down, 2, 3, push into the floor, 1, 2. Okay, relax it and pull it up, 1, 2, 3, hold, squeeze that muscle, try to pull that foot up as much as you can, 1, 2, push that foot down into the ground, push into the floor, 1, 2. Okay, so when you get dorsiflexion and plantar flexion going through that ankle, all of these little sensors in this ankle joint and what's called your talocural joint are going to send signals back up to your brain saying, hey, here's the ankle, it can move. And when you have electrical stimulation put on there, you may find that you're getting that sensory feedback and that motor feedback from that electrode on your anterior tibialis, and also in your calf, like your gastroc and your soleus. You're going to start getting more neurologic activation and more neurologic signaling into that calf by doing something like this. That could actually cause muscle hypertrophy and help you put muscle tissue back on that lower leg, okay? So it's good to work both directions through a joint, okay? So that's drill number 1. That's called assisted dorsiflexion. So if you want to go to the second slide, you can. Okay, so drill number 2 are called up and overs, all right? So if you can see here, what we're going to do is I'm going to have my heel on the ground. I'm going to lift my foot up, move it to the outside, which is eversion, which Ann was talking about before, okay, which we want to try to improve. We're going to lift it back up into dorsiflexion, and then we're going to move it into inversion, okay? Move it up into dorsiflexion, pull it across, go into eversion. Go up, move it across, and inversion. Now, what this exercise is really good for is creating lateral motion through not only your ankle joint, but your tibia, which is your shin bone, and it actually will start to move your shin bone right under that femur. And there are sensors in your knee joint. So when we get movement in the ankle and then rotation through the ankle and the lower leg, you're getting a double whammy of stimulation in the joint receptors in your ankle and in your knee, which are both going to connect up with your brain, which are facilitated by the electrodes in the sleeve. So that's going to help with things like knee hyperextension, knee kiss, spasticity, clonus, ataxia, and rigidity that is happening in your upper leg and your lower leg, okay? So I'm gonna demonstrate this one now. So for this, you can use a band at the same, you can use a band also for assistance, okay, as a spotter. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put a target on the floor. So I'm gonna put this a little bit ahead of me, and my goal is to lift my foot up and over the target, up and over the target, okay? And we're gonna do this super slow. Now, if you need to use a band, you can do that. It's the exact same thing, putting that around that foot, gathering up the band, and that gives you, it becomes a spotter for you, okay? So I'm gonna start on the outside of this. I'm gonna pull my shoulder blades down and sit up nice and tall so we have good spinal cord activation and flow going to the brain while we're doing this. And we're gonna focus on breathing out as we lift up. So we're gonna breathe out, and we're gonna move that toe over on the other side of that, whatever that object is. You can do a piece of tape. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be very high. You could do masking tape. You could do a ruler. As you get better at this, you can actually make the platform higher and get that foot up higher, which is gonna train your muscles to get even stronger, okay? So we're gonna keep tension on this band. We're gonna lift this up and breathe out, and then we're gonna rotate and move that foot to the outside. Notice my heel is planted on the ground, so it just becomes a pivot as we lift and rotate, all right? So breathe in and breathe out, lift up and over, in, so that chills out your body, and exhale, breathe it up and over, breathe in, breathe out, so we're lifting up, then we're using the muscles on the inside to move it over into inversion. Breathe out, lift up, dorsiflexion, move it out into eversion, and back down. And you can get a little bit more results out of this by every single time that you go back to the floor by pushing that foot down. So you're gonna get plantar flexion in inversion, okay? Bringing it up, and then plantar flexion in eversion. So you're working on almost 6 different mechanisms and 6 different movements in your ankle, because you have dorsiflexion, you have inversion, you have plantar flexion inversion, then you go dorsiflexion, eversion, plantar flexion and eversion. So you're working your ankle, lifting up, lifting down at different angles of rotation, which is going to help improve the mobility in your ankles. As you improve mobility in your ankles and you start to remap those patterns between your brain and your ankle, your spasticity will go down, your strength will go up, your balance will improve, your clonus will decrease, your stiffness and your stiffness and kind of that rigidity feeling and that fullness in your ankle will decrease, and you will notice that you will be able to do things you weren't or normally able to do because your ankles are more flexible. Your feet and your ankles drive every single movement that you will ever do for lower body, okay? So if you're wanting to be able to do a sit to stand, your body has got to dorsiflex. See, this dorsiflexion is the same thing as lifting my foot up. Your body sees this as dorsiflexion as well, all right? If you're wanting to walk and then change direction, okay? Change direction if you're on your walker or on assisted poles, you have to be able to rotate. Well, rotation oftentimes will start at the foot and then the hips will follow. So by working on this drill where you're coming up and in, up and out, that's going to allow your brain to start recognizing and start becoming familiar and comfortable moving from side to side, which is going to prevent you from falling, which all of us want, because nobody wants to get injured falling down and not being able to get back up. Okay? So that's called the up and over. Again, with all these drills, they're on my slides. 10 to 15 repetitions on most of these drills will be adequate. You want to take your time, go super slow, and connect in with that muscle contraction and the movement through the target joint so that you can get the most results possible. Okay? All right. So number 3 is called heel slides, right? So this is a crowd favorite or it's a crowd non-favorite because it's really hard if you have spasticity in your quadricep to bend your knee. Okay, if you have things like extensor spasticity, circumduction gait, if you have knee hyperextension, that can be caused by overactivity of the extensor. So it's really hard to actually get that knee to flex. The cool part is that the Psionic sleeve really targets the knee flexion function of the hamstring, which when you start to fire that hamstring more, guess what? that hamstring comes up and it connects, and it is fascially and neurologically connected to your glutes. So by working on your hamstrings, you indirectly and secondarily stimulate hip extension, and things that are wired together fire together. So as you stimulate the whole hamstring, which happens when you actually flex your leg, you will start to stimulate your glute indirectly. So you will get some glute work when you work your hamstrings. Okay. Now, the hardest part about working on knee flexion, and if you want to flip my slide, perfect. The hardest part about working on knee flexion typically is friction. Okay. So a couple things. If you have hardwood floors, put your socks on or put a towel down, and you will decrease the coefficient of friction on a hardwood floor, a tile floor, something like that. All right. If you have carpet, or if you have carpet, or if you have hardwood floors, you can also use something like a furniture mover. These are super duper inexpensive on Amazon. Just look up furniture mover. Don't look up like fitness slider, because they will charge you like 5 times what you need to pay for them. Just look up furniture mover. What these do is you can put these on any surface, and it creates a nice non-friction, or a less frictionful, that's a new word, a less frictionful surface, okay? So it makes it easier for you to slide your leg back and forth. Now, you can use a band on this as well for an assist. It's a little bit of a weird angle, but you can use one, okay? So you can actually put a band around your leg, and you can use any type of band you want, and you're gonna loop it back this way, and that could help assist pulling your leg back, all right? So what we're gonna do on this is we're gonna try to bend our knee. Now, if you have hardcore extensor spasticity here, or your leg just doesn't want to move, you might need to use your hands to get that thing started, just to get that knee flexed so that you can pull it. And don't strain on this exercise. Just even moving a knee that much or flexing a knee that much will feed a neurological stimulus into your hamstring, into your glute, back up into your brain. And things like the Sionic sleeve, the more you use it, the more sensitive and more activated this hamstring will be. You'll probably be able to start moving and flexing that knee a little bit better, okay? Now, this is a flexion-based exercise, so we want to breathe out as we're doing this. It's gonna help our muscle contract. So I want you to sit up nice and tall. If you need to put your hands underneath that knee, you can. We're gonna pull those abs in so we have a nice solid structure. We're gonna breathe in, and then we're gonna breathe out. If we need, on the exhale, if you need to push up a little bit, do it. And then you're gonna try to pull that heel toward your chair or toward your leg, okay? Or toward your thigh. So inhale, and then exhale nice and slow, focusing on this muscle right here, your hamstring. When you get to the point where it says stop, that's good enough. So that's the end of your exhale. We're gonna inhale and try to slide the leg back out. So inhale, this will work on quadricep activation and hip flexion, okay? So knee extension and hip flexion as you slide that leg forward. So exhale, pull the leg back. This is working on knee flexion and stimulation to the glutes. Inhale, push it forward. That's gonna work on quadricep contraction and hip flexion, okay? Exhale or breathe out, pull that heel towards you, nice and slow, okay? Inhale, push that heel or push that foot forward on that slider, okay? Couple more. Exhale, pull that back nice and slow, focus here. Inhale, use that quad, push forward. Exhale, pull back using that hamstring. Inhale, contract that quad and push forward, okay? So that's how that works, right? So when you guys are asking about instability at the knee and problems with hip flexion, these exercises all indirectly stimulate all 4 muscles when you put them all together. We worked on anterior tibialis, we worked on our plantar flexors, we worked on knee extension, we worked on knee flexion. We also indirectly targeted the hip flexors and the hip extensors as we're getting neurologic stimulus and electrical stimulation to these muscles, okay? So we're working our way up that chain. All right, so this last exercise, I'm gonna show you 2 different ways. I'm gonna show you the most effective if you can do it, but I'm gonna show you a modification if you cannot get on the floor, all right? So this is called a supine assisted hip flexion. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna put a band around our whole knee. okay? So around the knee, and it's around the shin, but we're holding it around the thigh. We're gonna have our legs elevated up on that platform to give us kind of a head start into hip flexion. Now, what your hip flexors, the psoas that Rebecca was talking about, are directly connected to the tendinous attachment shared with your diaphragm, okay? So we're gonna connect breath work with hip flexion work to improve hip flexor contractions, all right? So I'm gonna do this on the floor. I'm gonna show you guys how to do this on the floor. Then I'll show you how to do this in a chair. As you do this, I only want you to do about 5 repetitions. You have got to use your breath to coordinate hip flexion. So breathing outward is a flexion-based activity, which this is a hip flexion exercise. It means bringing joints together. So as we breathe out, we're gonna connect our exhale and our breath with the lifting of the leg into hip flexion. So we're gonna pull in more parts of the brain and more parts of your kinetic chains to actually get your hip flexor to kick in when maybe you wouldn't be able to do that just standing up on your feet, okay? So again, we're gonna only do about 5 repetitions of this. I'm gonna show it to you on the floor, then I'm gonna show it to you in a chair, and you can practice it both ways, okay? So go ahead and switch slides. I know this is a lot of information really fast, but we're running out of time, which is fine. And then I'm gonna send you guys the information where you can get all this information or all these exercises and practice them on your own, okay? All right, so what I like to do is give myself a head start by putting my feet up on a platform, okay? So you're gonna be on your back. If you need to lift your leg up to get it up there, you can always use a band, okay? So you can get a band here and kind of help yourself like lift that leg up onto a platform. The reason why we're up on a platform is if I have you try to lift your legs up from here and you have extreme extensor spasticity, your leg's probably not going anywhere. You're not gonna be able to flex that hip very well. So I like to have people put their legs up on a step like this so that we're already kind of in a semi-hip flex position. So all we need to do is just lift our leg off of the platform. Now, if you need an assistant, you can use this band. So you're going to put this not underneath the leg, okay? Because if you have extensor spasticity, your leg may get stuck like this, and that's a really long lever arm to try to lift up. What I want you to do is I want you to put the band around your shin and then hold it back here, okay? So we're going to double up the band this way, and we're going to hold it, and we're going to pull on it, and that will actually give us some elastic energy to help us get that leg up. Now, when we breathe, we're going to breathe in through our nose. We're going to breathe out through our mouth. I want you to open your mouth, and I want you to say, so you're going to whisper the word ha, and try to pull the belly button down and try to get all the air out of your lungs. As you're breathing out, I want you to think about pulling that leg up towards your chest. So you're going to use the muscles of the psoas right here to then pull that leg up this way. This is a very slow, very focused activity. So I want you to really think about lifting your leg both from your quad and from your core, because that's where your psoas lays and your rectus femoris. So we're going to pull up on that band if you need it. Lock the shoulder blades down. Now I want you to push your low back into the floor. Okay, go ahead and take a breath in. And then exhale, and then start pulling that leg towards you. We're going to pause as high as you can get, okay? And then we're going to inhale and let our leg come back down. And if you're using a band, you'll feel that band stretch. Exhale, pull it towards you. Again, if you have those electrodes on using your sleeve, this will connect, okay? Inhale, push it back down. Pull it up. And I'm pulling my belly button down, breathing out, and pulling that thigh towards my chest. We'll go one more. Inhale. Keeping my low back on the mat, pulling the belly button down, and exhale. And coming up, doing 5 repetitions on both legs, okay? Now, if you cannot get down on the floor, you can do that in a chair as well, okay? It's not quite as effective because we're not in extension, because we're seated, but it will do if you cannot get on the floor, okay? Or you can do that on a mattress, or you can do it on a therapy table. But if lying down is really difficult for you, You can do this same drill in your chair. What I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you slip your band underneath the leg on this one. It's hard to hold a band like this when you're sitting, okay? So you're going to put the band underneath and you're going to grab this. Try to get your leg as far back as you can so that you don't have this straight leg that you have to lift up. You have a shorter lever to lift when your knee is bent. So try to get it as bent as you can. We're going to sit on the edge of our chair. We're going to lean back, okay? Because that opens up the hip flexor and allows us more movement. It's the exact same thing that we did on the floor. So we're going to lean back. We're going to pull our shoulder blades down and get our trunk nice and straight. We're going to go ahead and inhale. And then and we're going to pull up on this band. On the exhale, again, try to pull your knee towards your rib cage. Just like that, okay? You don't have to get it up super duper high. Even if you're just lifting like this, that initiation will start to create neurologic connections between your brain and your hip flexor, okay? So inhale, put it back down. And if you want to pull up on your band, that'll give you more help. And exhale. And inhale, push back down. Exhale, pull up. Inhale, push back down. Exhale, pull up. Okay. Again, 5 repetitions on each side. All right. So we've hit all of that. So we've hit all the muscles necessary for walking at this point. Okay. So we got the ankles moving, we got the knees moving, we got the hips moving, we got the flexors moving, we got stimulation to our glutes. Now we want to put that into practice. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on a balance activity next. Okay. So, Ann, go ahead and switch to my last slide. And this is a drill called a VOR drill. Okay. So it's called vestibulo-ocular reflex. So what this does is that there is a reflex between your visual system and your vestibular system, okay? Your eyes are called ocular, your balance centers are called vestibular. Your brain, so when you're walking and you're trying to look at something and you turn your head, if you have a vestibular system that is disrupted or functioning slow, that's when you fall. That's when you feel unstable. That's when you start to get symptoms. So what we want to do is we want to train your body and your brain to be able to look at a target and then turn your head while still looking at a target, and then turn your head and still look at the target, or look at a target and move your head up or move your head down, still looking at a target. When you do that, your eyes fixate on the target and your head moves around your eyes, which leads to a higher level of stability in your visual system, in your vestibular system, which directly improves the stability in your spinal cord, your pelvis, and all the balance centers in your brain, okay? All right, so what we're gonna do here is I want you to find a nice stable surface. So you can use a wall, you can use a chair, you can use your walker, whatever it might be, and we are gonna do that VOR drill while we are in a walking stance, okay? So I'm gonna have a nice stable something right here, and I'm gonna take a step forward, okay? Typically, I recommend if my stabilizing object is on my right side, I'm going to step forward with my left, okay? Because then I'm not falling or anything like that. So we're going to stabilize by taking a step forward, and we're in a staggered stance. I also want you in a forward lean, okay? Because this is where people lose most balance, is going from a step here, lifting this foot off and going to that next step. That's when people typically fall, okay? So we're going to take a big step forward, and then we're just going to shift our weight into that front leg, locking that glute. So a little bit of a squeeze in your glute, little bit of pull of that belly button in towards your spine, and shoulder blades are going to go down. All right. Now, what I'm going to have you do, I'm going to turn my hat around because it's business time, right? You're going to pick an object straight ahead of you. All right. So I have a boxing bag straight ahead of me on the other side of my computer. I'm going to be looking at that. So I'm going to take a step forward, get everything stable. I'm going to lean. I'm going to keep looking at that heavy bag, and I'm going to turn my head to the left, keep looking at the heavy bag. Then to the right, then to the left, to the right, then to the left, then to the right. We're going to do this about 10 to 20 times. Left. And you can take your time in between. If you start to get dizzy or you start to get nauseous, go a little slower or wait longer in between each rep. To the right, to the right, left. Okay, and break. Then we're going to switch legs. So you can go to the other side of your object, put your right leg forward this time, lean, okay? This can be used for stability either in front of you or behind you a little bit, okay? Looking at my object, and we do the same thing. Left, keep looking at my object. Right, keep looking at my object. Left, right, left, right, left, and you want to keep your breathing nice and slow as you do this, right? Left, and stay relaxed, right? Pull your abs in, squeeze your glutes a little bit for stability, right? Left, and right, okay? So when we go side to side like that, that's training the lateral portions of your vestibular system to be able to stabilize as your body's rotating, and then also to prevent falling from side to side, okay? Now we're gonna do the same drill, but we're gonna go up and down, okay? So I'm gonna be looking at this object, and then I'm just gonna go chin up, but I'm still looking at the object, chin down, still looking at the object, chin up, chin down, but we're gonna do that in a staggered stance. So we're doing it in a staggered stance because we wanna practice specifically what we wanna get better at, which is balancing when we're in this forward lean, stagger stance, walking position, okay? So same jam, this hand is up here, take a step, okay? I'm balanced, so I squeeze my glutes a little bit, pull my abs in, shoulder blades down. I'm looking at an object straight ahead of me, and it's a little movement with the chin up, down. And breathing on this, breathe in as chin comes up, so breathe in, out as the chin goes down. In as the chin goes up, out as the chin goes down. Breathe in and up, and out, and up, and out, and up, and out. Okay? And switch side. So same deal, move it to the other side. This is a little bit in front of you with that left hand. Take a step forward with the right. Shoulder blades, abs, squeeze the glutes so you're stable. And again, same thing. So up and in, out and out. And in, out. And in, and out. And in, and out. Okay? And that's how you hit vestibular. Now, why that's important is that when you get all of these exercises and all these drills and you're starting to activate certain muscles and you want them to all work together, okay? You've got to have your vestibular system and your visual system integrated, coordinated, and activated so that it can use all those muscles together. Because the biggest thing I see in therapy, chiropractic, fitness, all that kind of stuff is people doing isolated exercises. So you may be really good at working on your ankle drills or your knee drills or your hip drills, and everything feels good when you're in your session. But the minute that you go out in the real world and you have to walk and some dog runs past you or a kid runs past you or there's a loud noise or a truck or the wind blows or whatever it might happen, your body goes into a threat response, your balance centers freak out because they don't know how to handle stress, and you're stuck, all right? So that happens with fatigue, that happens with what's called neural edge when you're doing too much at the same time, or when there's too much sensory stimulus coming into your brain's like, uh-oh, something's going on, and it stops. So by training all of these individual muscles and then training yourself to activate your vestibular and your visual system while you're in a walking pattern, which is the goal of using the Psyonix sleeve, then when you put that sleeve on, all of those plays come together. All of those players know what they're doing so that you can use that sleeve with more efficiency and more effectiveness because the muscles know how to work and they know how to play together, and your brain knows how to process all that information of the electrical stimulation, the movement, and the sensory feedback from the environment outside of you and the environment inside of you to help it be a comfortable and confident and safe experience so you keep getting results, okay? So that's how you group all that stuff together. This is how you start using exercise in coordination with technology and assisted devices to really boost your results and really restore your mobility. I'm done.
What about this one? Do you want to speak to this last slide?
Yeah, and so
Thanks,
this is kind of what I was just as I was just talking about is the neuroprotective strategy. Like Movement is medicine, but movement is also your protection plan for your nervous system. All movement stimulates what's called body-derived neurotropic factor, and that is what creates neuroplastic change, okay? So when you train and when you have a nervous system base, which is what we do, that's going to stimulate your central nervous system to get better. When you train your central nervous system to get better, which controls everything in your body, then you are training to decrease your symptoms, right? So if you want to decrease your symptoms, if you want to improve foot drop, if you want to get your hip flexor going, you need to train your central nervous system to allow it to have good communication between your joints, your nerves, and your muscles, and from your nerves and joints and muscles back up to your brain, because that's going to encourage that neuroplastic change and that neuroplastic learning. And like Galen was talking about, the ability of your brain to access those contingency plans or those side roads or those frontage roads that are already built into your brain just in case something bad happens with like a neurodisruptive condition, all right? So that's how we do things in the MS Gym. We train from central nervous system out. We train specific for symptoms. We train for neuroplastic change. And we use what's called the RISE method, which is what I taught you a little bit of today, where we're going to rebalance and reactivate those joint receptors. We're going to teach individual muscles and joints to work together as a team in an integrated fashion, the I, so that you can actually move and live and do your activities of daily living. Then we'll throw targeted strength training and compound strength training on top of it, which are things like sit to stands, which are things like split squats, which are things like step ups, things like that, that are going to help you get stronger in your life. And then we're going to do those things all in complete circuits, along with breathing exercises and breath respiratory efficiency to help you improve your endurance. All right. Because that's the thing. If you can improve your endurance and you can improve the way that your body utilizes fuel and utilizes oxygen and carbon dioxide by moving better and breathing better, you're just going to have more energy for life, which means you get to practice more, which means you get to improve more, which means you get to get rid of these symptoms faster or make them not as significant in your life. So that's what we do inside the MS Gym. That's why it works so with Psyonic, because the Psyonic is like a guide through all of the exercises to help it connect back with your brain to help you get the results that you're looking for. So I love the sleeve. I love this team. I love the gym. And it's just an awesome partnership that we have going on.
Awesome. I will say awesome as well. Thank you, Trevor. And this has been amazing. We've had a ton of really positive feedback in the chat, and thank you so much for sharing all these exercises. It's been amazing to get to know you and your team kind of throughout this process as well. And thank you to everybody for joining. This has been such a great group. So just a couple of final quick things. So one, we've had a lot of questions for before and after videos. So I did pull one in. So I'll just share this. This was an early one. So this was a trial in our office. So here she's wearing a neural sleeve and she's walking without stimulation on. So we have not turned on stimulation yet. You can see kind of the muscle measurements happening to the left there. And here she is with stimulation. So again, you can see kind of how much more fluid the movement pattern is. Again, it's individual for everyone, but what we'll do is again, that's what you do with your mobility specialist during your setup appointment, is you figure out which muscle groups make sense for you for your specific gait. And then we can dial in your settings to make it specific to kind of your needs as you walk. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
I was going to just say, and then the exercise drills and everything else will reinforce those patterns that the sleeve is putting into your brain. So that's how it works well together.
Yep. Awesome. And then let's see. So let me just go to, just a few final Q&A moments. I'll just turn the slides off. So Becky, does it help someone, this is a pretty, with MS that has right side weakness, spasticity in the right quad and knee hyperextension, and more what you would call foot slap all in the right leg. This person's looking for something that will help strengthen their right leg, as they pretty much do what a normal person can, but with limitations due to long-term weakness. They use an AFO. But don't need other walk aids.
Yeah, we just worked through your entire pattern. So the 5 drills that I just did just worked through your entire pattern that you just said. So foot slap, meaning you have no dorsiflexion eccentric control. You have knee hyperextension, which means that you don't have weak knee flexion and extensor control. And then you're just kind of like flapping that leg along because you have low activity and coordination between the flexors and the extensors in the hip. So when you work your way through those patterns and then you put balance training on top of it to integrate that, that is your prescription that we just rolled out for you.
Awesome. And then let's see, Becky, can you do, when you're wearing the neural sleeve, can you do traditional exercises such as squats, deadlifts, lunges, etc.?
That's a good question. The exercise programs that we have in the app are specific to what we have in the app. So we do have to stand, we have a squat, we're starting to build our exercise library. We don't have stimulation that is specific for lunges or deadlifts or things like that. So the stimulation is going to be very specific, timed, and targeted for specific exercises. And so we don't have the whole gamut of exercises yet. And so that's something we're working on and expanding our exercise program.
Thanks, Becky. And then as a last slide, I do want to show contact info. So some follow-up from today. So if you have any questions about any of the stuff that we talked about at Cyonic, you can always contact support@cyonic.com or just visit our website, cyonic.com. We have a lot of resources available there that can answer a lot of your questions. And then for the MS Gym, Trevor, do you want to speak to these?
Sure. Yeah, that top link is exercisewithms.com. If you go there, there's a list of free exercise guides for specific conditions. So we have foot drop, we have balance, we have hip flexor, we have a core chair or chair core strengthening. So you can go there and get started. It's my gift to you guys. I have a ton of free content out there as well, because ethically, I feel like you guys should have this information. So that's where you can get free exercises. A lot of the stuff that I showed today are in those guides. And then if you have any other questions about how we do, like what we do, how we do it, who we do it for, or how to get connected in with the MS Gym and possibly join it and become part of the community like Galen was talking about, just send an email to info@themsgym.com and my customer support staff will hook you up with all the details.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we have answered all of the questions. There were so many questions. Thank you again to Trevor for joining us and for such a great session. Thanks to Becky and thanks to everybody for joining. We had a really large and very engaged group. And again, if you have any final questions and you're thinking about this later, please do contact Cyonic, contact the MS Gym. We are here to support you with whatever you need. So thanks again for joining. And,
Bye, guys.
and we hope to do this again soon. So thanks, everyone.